All right, today we're going to talk about a technological revolution, but not the one you're thinking of. We're going way back to a time when a single discovery didn't just give people new gadgets, it completely rewired human society. We're talking about the Bronze Age.
So, think about it for a second. Can one single innovation really change everything? Well, history has a pretty clear answer, and it's a resounding yes. That innovation was an alloy, a man-made metal called bronze. And its discovery? Well, it kicked off a chain reaction, creating new social classes, sparking a global economy, and laying the groundwork for the world's first great civilizations.
So first up, let's get one thing straight. The Bronze Age wasn't just another tick on the timeline. It was a genuine pivot point for humanity, a moment where one piece of technology literally forged a new world.
Exactly. We are not just talking about a better axe or a sharper spear here. The ripple effects from the invention of bronze touched every single corner of life. It changed how people fought, how they traded, who held the power. It even changed how they understood their place in the world.
Okay, so what was this revolutionary stuff anyway? Before we can really get the massive impact it had, we have to understand what bronze actually is, and the incredible, mind-blowing ingenuity it took for our ancestors to even figure it out.
The formula looks so simple, right? Copper plus tin equals bronze. But don't let that fool you. This represents a monumental leap in human thinking. See, you couldn't just dig bronze out of the ground. People had to discover, through trial and error, that if you melted down two totally separate metals and mixed them together, you could create a brand new material that was way stronger and more useful than either of its parts.
And boom, here it is. This is the central challenge of the entire Bronze Age. The key ingredients for this game-changing tech were almost never found together. Tin, especially, is pretty rare. And this one geological inconvenience created a massive puzzle that would force human societies to change in some really profound ways.
You got to realize, this process was the high-tech of its day. It demanded incredibly specialized knowledge. You needed prospectors who knew how to find these rare ores. Then you needed skilled metallurgists who knew how to build a furnace hot enough to melt rock, how to get the copper-tin mixture just right, and then master the tricky art of casting. This wasn't a weekend hobby. This was a serious, full-time profession.
And this chart really just lays it all out, doesn't it? This is why it was worth all that incredible effort. Compared to stone, bronze was on a whole other level. It wouldn't shatter if you hit something hard. You could resharpen a blade instead of having to chip out a whole new one. And the big one, you could cast it. You could melt it down and pour it into any shape you could dream of. That meant more complex tools, beautiful ornaments, and yeah, much deadlier weapons.
So we've got a killer new material made through a really complex process. Now, let's get into the fallout. Let's look at the huge waves of change this one technology sent crashing through human society.
You know, for the first time, you started to see a whole class of people whose job wasn't finding food, but creating technology. These metal workers were the engineers of their day. And at the same time, because the raw materials were so hard to get, whoever controlled the copper and tin mines held all the cards. Suddenly, a bronze sword wasn't just a weapon. It was like a Rolex or a sports car. It was a flashy symbol that screamed, "I am powerful and I am rich."
Remember that big problem? Copper's over here, but tin's way over there? The solution was trade. But we're not talking about trading with the next village over. We're talking about massive, continent-spanning trade networks. A society in, say, Mesopotamia might be getting its tin from the mountains of what we now call Afghanistan. This was the birth of a truly interconnected world. You could almost call it a kind of prehistoric globalization. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. The old way of life, the self-sufficient village from the Stone Age, that was over. Suddenly, your community's power, maybe even its survival, depended on your relationship with people hundreds or thousands of miles away. It created a completely new dynamic in the world.
So how do you possibly manage these huge, sprawling trade networks? Well, you need organization. You need leaders to fund the expeditions, soldiers to protect the caravans, and officials to make sure nobody's cheating anybody. This absolute need for management was a huge driving force behind the creation of the first cities and states. Rulers popped up, palaces were built to manage it all, and systems like standardized weights were invented just to keep the trade flowing smoothly.
Okay, so in our final section, let's zoom out and look at the real legacy of the Bronze Age, because its impact is honestly staggering, and it shows us a pattern of change that, believe it or not, we can still see happening all around us today.
When historians look back, they see the Bronze Age as this absolutely critical middle chapter. It was the bridge that took us from a world of local stone tool-using tribes to the Iron Age that came later. But all the things that were built during the Bronze Age, the cities, the trade routes, the idea of kings, they set the stage for basically everything that followed.
And if you take away just one thing, let it be this. Having access to bronze technology and controlling the supply chain, that was like controlling all the microchip factories in the world today. It gave you unimaginable geopolitical power. The people who mastered it became kings and pharaohs. The cities that controlled it became the world's first great empires.
And that's really why all this matters so much. The story of bronze is basically a blueprint. A disruptive new tech comes along. It creates a need for specialists. Its key ingredients are rare, which leads to global trade and conflict. And finally, new power structures have to be created just to manage all the complexity. Sound familiar?
So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. What's our bronze today? Is it artificial intelligence? Is it biotechnology? Is it control over the rare earth minerals that go into every single one of our electronic devices? We're living through our own version of this exact same transformation right now. The Bronze Age never really ended. It just changed its name.